Hey guys, we have a transformative week full of planetary transits. We have a lot of interesting stuff going on. This week, we have the new moon in Gemini, which I will be making a separate podcast for, separate video for, which will be all about becoming more versatile in your life. Mercury goes direct on the 3rd, so Mercury will be still a few days prior to the 3rd, so the energy of Mercury is going to be more intense and more revved up as we get to this direct point. And Saturn is going retrograde at the end of the week, which is going to help us look at where we need to take more responsibility in our lives. And through the rest of this week, we have more Venus and Mercury alignments, which is going to help us in terms of socializing, communication, communicating the wrong way, and also our relationships and finances. And just looking at the vibes on the graph, we have a very interesting week ahead. The beginning of the week has a lot of drive and motivation. There's also some good luck energy coming up on the 31st. It's mixed in with solitude energy, and there's also some emotional sensitivity that's going to be going on around the 1st. So this might be a week where it's good to focus on doing your own thing in terms of whatever goals you have, in terms of just getting shit done, in terms of just soothing yourself or finding a way to ground your energy. This is going to definitely be one of those weeks where it's good to focus on the things that you need to take care of, and sometimes that requires us to just not have people around us, not be as social, but it's an interesting mix of energies because it is more uplifted than typical, aside from that emotional sensitivity that occurs on the 1st. That could definitely cause you to feel under pressure, but for the most part, it's more of a mixed bag energy. And as you get to the 1st, all the way up until about the 5th, we have low-grade energies going on. We have low-grade amounts of solitude. That's a steady stream for the next bunch of days. We have a bit of confusion going on, and that has a lot to do with some of the alignments, Mercury going direct, and a few other things going on with Neptune, and also a little bit of psychic energy, which could result in low-grade intuition going on that day. So it is going to be an interesting week for sure. Let's look at the next bunch of days and see what we can expect. As a reminder, don't forget to like and subscribe and also share because it does help this channel grow. Also, if you'd like to support the hard work of this channel, you can do so by buying me a fresh cup of coffee. There's a link in the description box below. On the 31st, Venus is going to make a semisextile with Jupiter. This is one of the reasons why we were seeing some of that good luck energy. This is also one of the reasons why we're seeing a little bit more motivation than typical with some of the solitude energy mixed in. Although that solitude energy will definitely hit, it may be a day where you're just feeling like, again, you can do stuff on your own and have a good time. And because Venus and Jupiter are coming together like this, even though it's a hard alignment, it's still a jolly sort of vibe. It has a tone to it where we become interested in doing feel-good things. So this could be just splurging on yourself or eating that second candy bar, because Jupiter and Venus coming together, it tends to bring out our more indulgent side. It tends to bring out more of our sweet tooth. So if you've been a little bit restrictive lately in terms of just going overboard when it comes to treats, this may be a day where you're finding yourself feeling like it's easy just to do so. Which is like, yeah, sometimes you gotta live a little. The only problem with Venus and Jupiter coming together like this, it becomes too easy to do certain things like overindulgence and spending and things like that. So that's something you want to be aware of if you all of a sudden have an urge to just be more indulgent than normal. This could also result in being over the top when it comes down to relationships and your love life overall. So this could be a day where there might be over the top displays of affection or just over flirting and overdoing it in relationships in a lot of ways. This could cause our expectations in relationships to be more expanded than normal. So you just want to make sure you're being realistic about your relationship or your love life situation and not expecting more than one person can give in a relationship, because this tends to inflate all of those things. And of course, if you're not getting what you want or someone's not meeting your expectations, it could lead to disappointment and feeling like your relationship isn't as good as it should be, which might not be the case. So you really want to make sure you're riding this one out until that feeling subsides. But other than that, use this to treat yourself, but just stay as balanced as you possibly can. When we get to the 3rd, we have a high concentration of energy that could cause us to feel off kilter for most of the week. So a lot of the alignments that are going on, aside from one, are a bit heavy in energy, vibes wise. So we might need some time to ground our energy. And on that day, Mercury goes direct. So the last couple of days, we could have been feeling more intensity in terms of our communication due to Mercury being still. When Mercury is still and it makes it stop before it starts going forward, the energy in itself can be a bit heavy, especially when it comes down to thinking straight and communicating with others and anything that Mercury rules. rules. That being said, Mercury went into shadow on April 26th and then went retrograde on May 10th. So think about what was going on in terms of Mercury things. Since May 26th, Mercury was in another sign at that point in time. Mercury was at the end of Taurus, so we dealt with Taurian themes for the first 3 days of this Mercury retrograde. So from April 26th to April 29th, there could have been Taurian themes that were popping up in your life. So this could have been all about building your confidence and working on negative self-talk, not allowing you to feel sure of yourself. Because Taurus has a lot to do with our self-esteem, this could have been a moment where you're realizing that's something that you have to work on in order to be whole and feel balanced. This could have been a time where you're questioning certain worth in your life. In other words, this could be a time where you're realizing your worth in romantic situations and other circumstances that are going on in your life. In these scenarios, we start reconsidering who's worth our time, what's worth our time, and an inner self-worth is crucial because it helps us not allow situations that aren't good for us into our lives. In other words, we won't accept things that are going to bring our confidence down and anything that might cause us to lose self-respect. It's crucial to respect yourself if you want to move through the world in a balanced way. In this energy, we could have questioned our values and what's bringing value to our lives, which also leads to money. This could have been a time where there could have been some communication issues with regards to money and possessions and things like that, or anything to do with material gains, or just working on money noise of your own. And we also could have looked at the areas where we became mentally stagnant or went into some sort of mental rut. And even look at the areas where we might be a bit stubborn and we're having to work through that. So this could have been a time where you're clearing out mental ruts and anything that's caused you to paint yourself into a corner. Even though the Taurus portion was shorter, it definitely packed a punch in those 3 days that we had that Taurus energy shifted into Gemini energy. So from about April 30th to May 10th, think about what Gemini themes might have came up around you. Were there issues regarding documents and signing papers or anything to do with just paperwork overall, having contracts in order? Because Gemini energy, we deal with writing, we deal with contracts a lot of the time in this energy. This is where you get some of those stereotypical Mercury retrograde themes. And so some of that could have been coming up where you needed to either go back and fix something or fix some red tape, or even, maybe you forgot to download a document and it was about to expire and you needed to get that done before a certain date to make sure everything would run smoothly for you. We also deal with a lot of stuff with data, so there could have been issues with data that was going on or anything to do with details, anything to do with the facts. During this time, we could have went back and resolved something with someone. If there was information that was misunderstood or, a misunderstanding between people, this could be something that ended up getting resolved during this time, or you're working on a resolution throughout the retrograde. So this could be a time where you're dealing with past information that needs to be resolved. Some of that could be gossip. Some of that can be fixing a game of telephone where someone relayed a message to one person and it got relayed to another person and everything got misconstrued. This also could have brought up people from the past, not specifically lovers, even though that could happen. This generally deals with family energy, particularly sibling energy. So there could have been issues with siblings where that needed to be resolved. Sometimes it could be aunts, sometimes it could be uncles, sometimes it could be estranged family members that come back in this energy. So there could have been situations revolving around that as well. And also too, this could be a situation with your local environment. Gemini rules environments. So this might have been a time where you're questioning if your local environment is for you, if your city is for you, your town, your state, and even just revisiting certain things within your town. Also, this could be rediscovering parts of your town, and it's helping you reconnect with that area and actually appreciate it more, because sometimes it's not about the move. Sometimes it could be just rediscovering certain things. But now we're in the shadow period. Mercury will go out of the shadow period around June 18th. So at least over this next few weeks, we're moving through this cycle, but we're moving through with clarity. So all of these scenarios can come back up, but at least you have more information and more clarity and data, which will help you work these situations in a way that's more beneficial for you. That same day, we have a few Mercury alignments that are very different from one another. Mercury is going to make a square with Saturn, and Mercury is also going to make a sextile with Neptune. So this Mercury direct is getting some interesting energy right out the gate, which could cause our minds to feel off kilter and communication to be out of sorts, especially with Mercury making that square to Saturn. Mercury making the square to Saturn could cause some situations where people are either overly critiquing things, which results in coming off very judgmental. Sometimes it can cause people to speak with more authority than either they have the right to, or because they have credentials and so they're throwing their weight around, resulting in it just being a very uncomfortable conversation, or in a lot of ways it gets to the point where it's a bit argumentative or disputive. So it can bring up some uncomfortable conversations throughout the day. It also has a tendency to cause us to get in our heads, and that negative self-talk creeps in and we're feeling bad about ourselves, we're being judgmental, or we're not feeling as though we're getting what in terms of recognition, or even in terms of people being committal. Also bring up conversations where you're having to either confront someone about their lack of accountability, or people just refusing to take accountability for the things that they say. So this could be quite the uncomfortable energy. Luckily, Mercury is making that sextile with Neptune, and even though Mercury and Neptune sometimes they don't really mix well because they're very different energies, this could actually bring out a bit of a spiritual aspect that day. This could cause conversations to be more calm in certain circumstances, or it could result in diffusing some BS that might be going on with some of the harder energies that we're getting from the Mercury square Saturn situation. Unlike that alignment, this does cause compassion to happen. So in other words, you can be communicating compassionately or showing empathy to others, which again might diffuse some of that stuff that's going on with Mercury and Saturn. So hopefully this helps soften some of the communication going on that day, and our minds could be on spiritual things. This is great energy for getting lost in a book, or daydreaming, or doing something that involves our spirituality, whether that's meditation, whether that meditation would be great for the energies that are going on, just to ground your energy, or just doing things with astrology or tarot cards or whatever spiritual modality you're into. And this also tends to bring up our psychic energy as well. So this could be a day of intuitive downloads and having prophetic dreams, and also just having some hits or even picking up on other people's energies. Considering the energy is a little hard on this day, this could up the chance of picking up other people's energies and just knowing that it's not your own, and again grounding yourself the best way you can. And a lot of that's going to be needed because on that same day, Mars and Venus are making a complex alignment. Venus is going to make a semi-sextile with Mars, which could cause some overthinking in relationships. It could bring up petty feelings. It could bring up a lot of immaturity in relationships. So this could be a day where there's a bit of conflict when it comes down to relationship issues, especially if there's been a lot of miscommunication, which, there's a lot of miscommunication going on with the energies that we're dealing with, especially with Mercury going direct, that Mercury square Saturn situation, and other things that are in the air. So when it comes down to our relationships, there could be a lot of triggery stuff occurring on this day that's going to call to our attention either things that just need to be resolved, or things that we might need to let go in terms of maybe petty feelings that we need to let go of because they aren't warranted. And if they are, find a more appropriate way to resolve it. And also because today, again, there's edgy energies, there could be other issues going on that could trigger certain things in terms of our ego and our confidence. The sun is going to make a Sesquiquadrate with Pluto, which could bring in some situations where people are coming off in a domineering and authoritarian sort of way. And with Mercury making that square to Saturn, this is going to inflate that sort of energy. So there could be moments where there are power struggles with people because their ego is bruised, and whatever happened, they heard something that they didn't like about themselves, and so they're coming on the attack. So this could bring up conflict if someone's ego isn't being stroked. So that's something to be aware of. This could also cause us to obsess about things that we can't control in terms of the stuff that we can't make changes to, the stuff that's not transforming in our lives. So it can definitely cause us to go on a loop in our mind about the things we have no control over. So it's an uncomfortable energy for sure. So do the best you can on the 3rd, because it is definitely intense, and I'm just really hoping that that Neptune stuff really calms the air down. On the 4th, Saturn is going retrograde. Saturn went into shadow on February 26th. So think about what was going on in your life since then up until this point regarding Saturnian things. What's been going on in your life in terms of limits? How have you set boundaries, or are you working on setting boundaries and limits around certain things? And those certain things could be people, it could be situations with yourself where you're creating boundaries for yourself when it comes down to what you allow in on a personal level. And our personal level stuff can be spending habits, it could be drinking too much, it could be keeping your house clean, it could be working on your health and not eating the wrong foods, it could be anything like that. Because we always talk about setting boundaries with other people, and that's important, so hopefully you guys are doing that. But this could also be a time since that February 26th period where you're also making those guidelines for yourself on specific things. Have you been on a journey when it comes down to your maturity, responsibility, and keeping yourself accountable for things? Because that's a very important thing with Saturn. Saturn is about our maturity. It's about growing up. It's about stepping up to the plate in your life, learning how to be the type that's responsible for yourself and others, and also taking accountability, but also holding other people accountable for their actions. So this could be something that you could have been working on since that time period. This could have been a period where you're working on cleaning up your act in general and just getting to a place where you feel stable, getting to a place where you feel like you have consistency in your life. This could be a time where you're looking to master a goal or a career aspiration as well, and you've been just hyper-focused on it. Also, this could be a time where you're working on your reputation. And that doesn't mean it's because you have a bad reputation. It could be just wanting more recognition. It could be working on your portfolio. It could be working on your social media. A lot of the times when we deal with Saturn, we're dealing with the 10th house, we're dealing with the midheaven, which is our public standing. It's how people see us, it's how people view us in the world. It's how people view us in the world from a distance, which could be our social media, our portfolio, and what kind of work we're putting out into the world. So this could be a time where you're starting to really consider what kind of mark you want to leave on the world. What kind of legacy do you want to leave behind in this world? So yeah, this is a very serious retrograde, as all retrogrades are, but this definitely is all about just pulling yourself up by your bootstraps and becoming more polished. The signs that are going to feel this retrograde the most is going to be the fixed signs: Leo, Scorpio, Aquarius, and Taurus. Between 20 to 29 degrees of these signs will feel more affected. If you have planets in those signs, you'll definitely feel this retrograde more intensely than others. But the cool thing is with Saturn retrogrades, even though they're hard, you come out the other side ready to be a boss and take charge of whatever needs to be taken care of in your life. Saturn goes direct on October 22nd and will leave shadow around January 26th of 2023. So we've got a long 4.5-month cycle of this retrograde. So here's to getting stable and creating something we could be proud of in our lives. Anyway, I hope you all have the best week ever. Later, guys.